Philadelphia Inquirer, Philly.com. Keith Pompey joining us to discuss Brett Brown and Bryan Colangelo both speaking at the end of this season. What did we learn? What are we figuring out? What's going on in the future? Keith Pompey joins us now here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Welcome back, Keith. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. What's up, fellas?
We're all good. I will say I was watching the video of today's pressers, and I saw at the end Bryan Colangelo give you a nice pat on the back, and you guys went off to the side there. Did you get anything exclusive in that side conversation?
Me no habla inglés.
All right. A couple of key things. One, it is abundantly clear that Brett Brown will be the head coach of this team, correct? Correct. No questions at all?
Nah, none whatsoever. I mean, you can't make a coaching. I mean, there's some people who are going to say, hey, you got to fire the guy. Look at the mistakes he made. I mean, I don't think you could fire. Well, the Toronto Raptors did today, but I don't think that you can fire a coach who took a team from 28 wins to 52. You know, a guy who, had the third seed in the East and did the things that he accomplished. I don't think that you could fire him now. The one thing that you can say is you may say that, Brett Brown was kind of stubborn in a couple of those games, not calling the timeout, not going to Justin Anderson, depending on Marco Bellinelli a little bit too long when, they kept scoring on him at will. But, he did make some adjustments. Some people may say a little too late. But at the same time, we want to talk about Ben Simmons being not immature, but being inexperienced as far as a playoff type point guard. Well, even though Brett Brown was on San Antonio's staff, I think he just made some inexperienced decisions. So you can't fire a guy because, oh, wow, he made mistakes in the playoffs. Nah, I think you have to give him a chance to coach.
And I would agree. I'm not certainly sitting here saying that I can't believe that they are making this type of decision. Brett did say that there are a couple of things he wished he did different. He rhetorically asked a couple of questions. Should I have used TJ more? Should I have used more Justin Anderson? Could I have gone to Markelle Fultz? Now, I thought Fultz was a big talking point today. What did you learn about what they want to do with Markelle Fultz from this point moving forward?
I think basically a lot of it depends on Markelle Fultz. I think, in a perfect world, Markelle Fultz will be the guy who they drafted, a guy who could come in, he could take some of the ball handling duties off of Ben Simmons, right, a secondary ball handler, but he could be a guy who could create shots. And, I think that's still the plan, but, everything went a little sideways this season. So with that being said, it's just a matter of making sure that you can get him back to being the player that you thought you drafted. The guy that was playing in the summer league last year. That's what they want. Now, based off the conversations that Brett had and the stuff that Bryan had today, they want to make sure that they can get a good eye on Markelle. You can't force a guy to come in and work out in the summertime. I mean, just because of collective bargaining. But you get a gist that they would love for him to be here, most of the time. Also, you get a gist that they really want him to play summer league. Now, again, it sounds easy to say, well, if you really want him to play summer league, then make him play summer league. But typically, the first overall draft pick and the top 5 guys, in their contract, some of them have it as if hey, I'm going to play my rookie year, and then after that, I don't have to play. So that's something that they have to deal with. Because, the question was asked, well, how come he's not playing? I mean, how come you don't know if he's playing, but the other 2 are?
Right.
Well, the other 2 were late first-round picks, and that's in their contract. and whereas, Markelle was a first overall pick, and their contract is typically different.
By the way, the other 2 were Korkmaz and Lawawu Cabarro that he's referring to.
TLC.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's right.
It's all good, Keith. Keith Pompey with us. So, listen, Keith, Brett Brown said we need more help. Do they think Fultz is the guy that can provide that help and be that guy that gives them the help they need?
I think what what Brett Brown is talking about in that category, we need more help. He's talking about free agency. They need to go out there and get an A-list guy that's going to help them out. Now, if Markelle Fultz can do that, that's great too. But right now with the cap space they have around roughly $25 million available to go out and secure someone. I think that that's the type of money that like a LeBron James or Paul George, those type of players who could come in and immediately help this roster. That's what he meant by more help.
Quick follow-up on Fultz. Does he have a group that he works with, too? Because I saw post-game that there was questions of if Fultz is going to get more work and more instruction, if you will that come from Sixers personnel or outside personnel?
Well, the thing is, he has people that he works with, but, it's funny, like, yesterday on the podium, Joel Embiid was talking. He says, oh, yeah, my trainer. And then, you hear a couple other guys, saying, oh, yeah, my trainer. So they all have guys that they work with, in the off season, and then also something else, like they have a shooting coach, John Townsend, and what he typically does is he'll go wherever the player is. Like, for instance, Ben Simmons, likes working out in Los Angeles in the summertime. So Townsend will go to where he is and he'll monitor things. He'll tell them some other workouts to do. The trainer will implement the stuff that the Sixers want them to do. The trainer will work on his own stuff. But yeah, they work out with their own personal trainer. But it's kind of like an umbrella thing, so to speak, where the team will come out and monitor, the player from time to time.
Keith Pompey is here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline as the Sixers brass, Brett Brown and Bryan Colangelo both speak. And they both, what was it, like 2 hours? How long were you guys there for?
Forever. It was like, yesterday was crazy, though. Yesterday was from 10 o'clock, and we didn't get Embiid until probably like 3-something.
Wow.
So that was like long. But today, might have been 4 o'clock. But today, today wasn't too long because, they said that, Brett Brown was going to come on at 9:15. He spoke, for maybe 40 minutes or something like that.
Yep.
And then Bryan Colangelo spoke. And I don't think anyone complained because, everybody had a bunch of questions to ask.
Sure.
So, and you better get it now before, they start bringing in guys and the media availability isn't going to be the way, as you normally have as a daily thing. So no one complained.
No, and they gave a lot of good stuff and a lot on Fultz, including, that Colangelo said he thinks the Sixers can insert Fultz right into their projected lineup next season, that he could score the basketball, he could shoot the basketball, and that he's going to come back fully. Fultz the other day said that he's still not really 100% or that he's, kind of close there. So is there still more rehabbing that Fultz needs to do, or do they think now, from much like Joel, that he's finally not hurting this offseason, that everything is basketball related and not rehab related?
Yeah, I think it was done with the rehab stuff a long time ago.
Okay.
I know what Markelle said, but it's more of, it's a mental thing. He has to just get his mind right. And I think he will do that. But as far as 100%, I think when he's saying that, he's talking about his shot isn't quite 100% yet. So I think he has to get that together. And in regards to what Bryan said, I think the game plan was, let's face it, Bryan Colangelo is a guy who drafted him. And he drafted him because he wanted him to be the two guard to play alongside Ben Simmons. And right now, he wants him to be the two guard to play alongside him. So until Markelle shows him otherwise, he's going to continue to say that. They gave up a lot for Markelle, and it doesn't do him any good to say he's going to be the first guard off the bench when we gave up a lot. And you look at the fact that Jason Tatum, is one of the top 3 rookies right now.
A question that I'm not sure was asked, or I would have liked to have heard, maybe it was kind of asked, and he kind of insinuated was, do you think that Colangelo was angry or upset or annoyed that they didn't play Fultz in these playoffs?
Nah, I didn't know. I don't think he was. I don't think he was. He did say
He referenced it a little bit that the coaching staff made the decision and he supported it.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if
secretly,
secretly he's saying, why are these guys not playing this guy when Tatum is doing this? Can you guys please get this guy on the court?
I didn't read. He could have meant that way, but I didn't read it that way. I think that's in the perception. The thing about Bryan Colangelo is, more so than Sam Hinkie was, he's allowed Brett Brown to do whatever he wants in regards to coaching. So if Brett felt like 11 games wasn't a good. 10 games at the end of the season, wasn't good enough for him to play against top-notch opponent in the playoffs. Bryan, it wasn't the type of guy who wouldn't, who would say, oh no, I'm going against the coach's orders. Now, the one thing that Bryan did say is he felt like if he would have played more games in the regular season, the coaches would have had more confidence in him for the playoffs. Now, here's the thing, we can all talk about athletic ability all we want in regards to somebody playing, but when you're a rookie and you miss X amount of games, we saw how Ben Simmons went from being Superman to being a guy trying to figure out what was going on in certain stages and against the Boston Celtics. So can you imagine, and I know everyone says, get him out there, he's an athlete, he can do this, he can do that, but if you're the coaching, and it could be true, but if you're Brett Brown, I don't fault Brett Brown for not wanting to play someone when you're looking and you're seeing that Ben Simmons is struggling right now. You know what I mean? So, it's one of those things where it's the coach's decision. This guy played 10 games in the final 10 games of the regular season, and I think that had much to do with it. And I don't think that Colangelo was upset about it, because they want to win games and they want to put the best players on the floor.
Yeah, and by the way, Keith, I agree. Watching Ben, the same thing I said, the level of intensity of defense that he's seeing, it would not be fair to ask that kid to go out there and face that level of defense when he's never seen it before and was struggling to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it's just a matter of, it's just one. Plus, it's just one of those things where if I'm him, I'm just going to make sure I get in the gym this year, and I'm going to prove to them that I can be depended on. Prove to everyone who was saying he's a bust, saying all this other stuff, that to me that's going to motivate me to come back, better. It's going to motivate me to put in those shots. It's going to motivate me to get my mind right. So, I think he'll be fine.
Well, Keith, he wore his wedding suit yesterday, and all indications are that TJ McConnell's option is going to be picked up. What role do you see in his future if Markelle Fultz is healthy?
Here's the thing. Right now, TJ, I think what's going to happen is TJ's going to get the $1.6 million, right? I know it's going to be non-guaranteed, but we know they're not going to cut TJ McConnell. Who knows? They could possibly trade him. Who knows? I'm talking about in the middle of the season if Markelle is great. But, the thing is, the Sixers, moving forward, I'm talking about a couple years down the road, TJ McConnell, if Markelle if everything's okay for Markelle, I think TJ McConnell will be fine. He'll just be fine with a different ball club. Because, you're going to have to pay Markelle. You're going to have to pay Ben Simmons, of course. You can't have three very paid point guards, especially when one of them isn't playing. And I think TJ is good enough. He's proven that he's good enough to go elsewhere and contribute on a roster. And I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see TJ McConnell out there playing. He might not play as much as he should, right? But if Brett Brown wants to win, he'll play. But other than that, it's going to be one of those things where, next year will probably be his last year, because the 76ers aren't going to pay the type of money for a reserve point guard or possibly a third-string point guard that other teams are going to pay for TJ.
Keith Pompey, the Inquirer, Philly.com. He covers the Sixers through thick and thin. Good times and bad. Keith has been there, and we will see a very important offseason ahead for Bryan Colangelo and Brett Brown. Keith, we appreciate the time as always.
Hey, thanks for having me on, fellas.